somehow managed to keep it together for this episode, but it was a good one, and I really hope you enjoy it. If you haven't listened to episode 1, where I share some of my story, go back and listen to that. And I share about my brother in that episode. And April, our guest today on Naked Talk with Jess, and I both met when we were speaking about Camp Hope, which helps veterans in transition. And we've decided to take our pain and turn it into purpose. You'll learn more about her in this episode. Be sure to subscribe so you hear when new episodes come out, and let me know what you want to hear on the show, because this is to serve you. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and let's have some candid conversations. Hey y'all, welcome to Naked Talk with Jess. Really excited for this episode today. I'm here with April Kohlmeyer, and I've shared a little bit before about how our lives intertwined. It's not necessarily a good way that they intertwined, but we're together now, and so we want to take, I've said before, like the trauma and pain, and we want to help turn that into purpose. So we initially met earlier this year. I've shared before, if you haven't heard episode 1, go back and check that out. I've shared before about my brother. He was a veteran, and we lost him to combat PTSD suicide just over 3 years ago. So he was going to go to a place called Camp Hope here in Houston, and he'd been in conversations with them, and he did not make it there, but since his death, we have been in contact with them, and we really want to support them because I believe in a holistic approach to our heroes. It's not just, take this or that, or let's do one thing. It really is a holistic approach. There's also not just the veteran, but the wives and the family involved as well. So I'm really passionate about sharing about that and helping our veterans. So we met speaking at a fundraiser for Camp Hope, and that's how I met April. And I just think she's amazing. She's doing some amazing things, and so is her husband, Andrew. So I want to share a little bit about her story with you and also what she's doing now, and I hope you get encouraged by this episode. So hi, April.
Hello.
Welcome to Naked Talk.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So we like to keep it real here on Naked Talk. So just this chat, like we're just two girlfriends chatting, and just share a little bit about just briefly about, I guess, Andrew and you and some of the stuff that you've been through as far as with PTSD, and then what kind of brought you to where you are now and how you're helping others.
Let's see here. We've been married about 7 years. When we first got married, just a rundown of my husband and I, he had switched to contract working, he was diplomatic protection in Afghanistan for a year and a year in Iraq. So the first 2 years of our marriage there were no signs that I saw with the PTSD, and because he wasn't home long enough. He'd be gone for quite a few months at a time and only home for 1 month. But once he decided to stop contracting, it was a very slow progression of the PTSD. There were little signs here and there, and I think that I wasn't educated enough about PTSD to really be like, okay, we got to do something. It was easy for him to say, oh no, this is just normal. All the guys deal with it, and this is just how we're made, and those kind of things. So let's see, fast forward to, I think it was 2018, and it just spiraled to the point where I had to put down a boundary and just be like, look, you've got to get help. Our family's going to fall apart. And my brother, Zach Alexander, he actually was treated at Camp Hope, and he now works there on the outreach team. And I had contacted him. I was like, we need to get Andrew up to Camp Hope. He totally helped with that. So I think it was by September, I think it was, in 2018 that he went in. Now, keep in mind, with all that, too, the wives, by the time the guys go to get help, the wives are kind of stuck in this whirlwind of just all the chaos that was created from the PTSD. So as I was sure to get myself some help at the same time. I don't know if that's kind of the background of that. And then that's also how I learned so much about PTSD, and I wish I would have known more about it. I really want more of the wives and families and girlfriends and fiancés and caretakers to really reach out to someone, because I didn't realize the things that I could have gotten help with if I would have connected with someone. So I'm a huge advocate for Camp Hope. I'm hoping to help a little bit more with the wives and families. So,
yeah, and that's what you and I, April, have talked about before. With my sister-in-law, she actually did a TEDx talk, Joy After PTSD, here recently. And like you said, it's, yes, our veterans get help, but then a lot of times the wives are left, I don't know if this is the right term, but kind of dealing with the mess, right?
Yes,
the aftermath. And what we don't want to happen is our veterans get help and come home and say, I think kind of like Wendy, I know Wendy as well, has said, okay, let go, let God, let's do this. And the wife's just like, okay, like I'm here broken. I've been through all this. And it's important. It's a holistic approach. And I shared when you and I spoke that night about a holistic hero. It's not just one area. It's all the things involved. And I always say that all areas of our life are interconnected and affect the other. And I'm passionate as well about getting them that holistic help and helping the family. So I love that you're doing that. And I love that Camp Hope is reaching out to the family as well. And tell us a little bit about, I saw that you and Andrew, I believe, have gone through the Care and Combat Trauma.
Yes, we are certified now for counseling, where we can do a little bit more at Camp Hope than what we were doing before. And it helps give a little bit more credibility behind it. And it's the book that they give you to get certified. It's a good guideline on really reaching into that darkness and pulling someone out of it. And I needed both sides of it. I needed someone to tell me how to do it, even though I've been there myself. Sometimes I almost feel like I talk about my story so much I forget to listen to others' story, because everyone, yes, it's a blanket of the PTSD, but there's other addictions. There's so much under that blanket of PTSD. So it kind of helped me gather my thoughts too whenever someone's reached out to me to kind of be like, okay, I need to just listen, But I think for most part, it's just wanting to help more women, which I love the holistic side of what you do, because by the time Andrew had gone to Camp Hope, I was on Xanax, I was on antidepressants, I was on Ambien. Like, I had all these chemicals in my brain. I needed to detox myself from all those chemicals that weren't allowing me to really sit back and think, okay, I got to work inside to get a better outside. And so when he was at Camp Hope, not only I even put away the wine. I didn't drink wine for the longest time, which is hard. I even, I stopped coffee because the caffeine would cause me to get that stress feeling. And then I slowly got off of the antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and all that, and switched to like a few oils and things that you probably know more about than, I just dabbled in it. So, but,
and I think that's so important. I've shared before too that, excuse me, there's a time and place for medication, and I believe that. But if we're not getting down to the root of what's causing those symptoms, we're constantly managing them, they're going to come back up. And a lot of times when you have too many of these things in your body, you don't even really know, like, this one causes this side effect, and so now you're not sleeping or whatever it may be. I think it's important to work with your doctor, but also, like you said, know that you want to try to be clear-headed about it as well.
Definitely. I feel like it was being more used like as a Band-Aid than to really dig out, all the poison of the chaos around me.
And having a goal to say, I need these things right now, but my goal is to be able to function without them. Mm-hmm. And that's a different approach than like, okay, take another pill and now take another pill for this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so glad that you realized that, and we're able to do that, because it's almost like a fog's been lifted.
Yes.
And you start seeing things now. Granted, it's a lot harder because now you're feeling everything, and that's a whole different story. And how do you handle that? But yeah, so I love that you're on board with that as well. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, because so many women are, just like you said, you thought, oh, well, what you were going through with Andrea, well, this is normal. That's just what the guys do. And I know for me, just in different things in my life that I've been through, I felt so isolated at times, because you feel like no one can understand, or it's embarrassing. So that's why I want to be a voice, and let others use their voice to let people know it's okay to ask for help. And one of the things we talk about on here, because it is such a difficult topic to talk about, is shedding shame around our bodies and sex and intimacy. And so I'd like to talk a little bit, if you're willing, about your intimacy, as far as obviously that affected that. But how did anything that helped you, maybe for someone that might be struggling with something like this, to, I guess, recreate that intimacy, or just some of the struggles, if you want to help for someone listening that might be going through a similar situation?
Well, I have a counselor that I was seeing while Andrew was at Camp Hope, and she really worked on my problem was my self-esteem was so low. So when you suffer from low self-esteem and you have all these doubts, and you can't connect with anyone on an intimate level, and especially if you're going through all of the things that PTSD puts in your life, and you're embarrassed to tell anyone, like, look, this is what's really going on behind the scenes, and my husband's depressed, and as women, we tend to, look at ourselves like, well, maybe if I was this, maybe he wouldn't be depressed, So getting my own counseling while he was at Camp Hope is huge. Like, I'm also an advocate for marriage counseling, but I think you should definitely get your own to work through all of those types of issues, and just learning. I would put Post-it notes on my mirror of either Bible verses or self-affirmation, like learning to love myself again and to forgive myself for allowing things, to spin out of control or whatever it might be. So I would put Post-it notes, and I had a bulletin bulletin board by my bed that I had, either stories or any kind of positive reinforcement. I surrounded myself with it. Just letting go of anything toxic or even toxic people. Yes. That's so important as well. To not, because if you're not getting your help by the time they come home, he would have been, knowing how to deal with triggers and stuff. And then here we are at home handling the house, the kids, homework, whatever, work, regular work, whatever it is. And we still are dealing with our own triggers. So there's just so many things that can interfere with intimacy, that you have to work on while they are getting help. So that way, when they do come back home, you know how to communicate with them and you relearn. And actually, I think our intimacy has been better since he's gotten back. He communicates a lot better. I communicate better. I mean, we still have our, he's still intense. He's a Marine and, there's a certain personality, but I've learned how to, we've just learned how to bounce off of each other. Like okay, well, let's not make that a big issue. Let's just,
Yeah.
So I think that definitely the counseling helped for me.
Yeah.
Working on myself.
And that's something so important as we talk about and to other women, whether it's they've been through abuse or just growing up with shame around their bodies for whatever reason. It is so important because oftentimes in a relationship, we blame ourselves. Or I've shared before when I was left my girl's biological father, it doesn't matter. Like, so if you go look on April's page, she's gorgeous as all get up. Her husband's this, I don't even know how to describe him, this just Marine, muscles to the max, like, yeah, that's what he looks like. And so you see them on the outside and you think, oh, well,
yeah,
look at him and look at her. And so for me, I was a beauty queen. I had, done all these things, but it just leaves you like, whether it's cheating or trauma or abuse, it just makes you feel so just unworthy, I guess.
And with both of us both suffering from depression and anxiety, it's like you're just two negatives, just like,
Yes.
You can't connect when you're both dealing. You can't ever reach in and really have a connection when you have that blocking.
And I think a lot of times, and everyone's different, like you and I were just saying earlier, that intimacy looks different for everybody, and I've shared on here before, and I'll keep saying it, whether it's intimacy or just sex between two people, it's not a 1, 2, 3. Like, oh, that's how it's done. 1, 2, 3. And I had this great thing with this person. And no, we're all individual and we all are unique. So that's the challenging thing, right? I think a lot of times someone wants to say, just tell me what to do. Let me check the boxes.
Yeah,
no, that's not life. But when you can open up and work on yourself and how you feel and then work together, you can create something really beautiful. And like you said, I love that you said it's even better intimacy than it was before, because now you've been through all these things, and it doesn't mean it's going to be great, but now you can, like you said, say, okay, he's a Marine, he's having a Marine moment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a Marine moment, honey. And I think we all go through that in our relationships. With my husband, he'll do something, but I'm like, you know what? That's okay, because overall, like, we're all right. So I love that you shared that, because that is something I know that with my brother going through PTSD, it's like, I know for me anyway, I love my brother so much, and he was such a good person that I didn't want to say anything. It's almost like you don't want to look like you're making them look bad,
right,
you know?
Right. Well, and they're military guys.
Yes.
And they're taught to be tough and, don't show emotion and unless it is like raw, like tough, that tough type of emotion. But
yeah, and you don't want to show that you're making them in a negative light, I guess.
Right.
And, but if anything, I really want to encourage you listening, if you're going through anything, whether it is like what April went through or something different, a different situation, to get help. And I love that you said too, if you're in a relationship, get couples counseling, but get your own help as well.
Yes.
That's so important. So now I want to switch to talking about, I love how this all ties together as well, April, is your passion of designing. And through the midst of all this, trauma and turmoil, you stuck true to that. And I love that message for women that, life doesn't have to look a certain way for us to stay true to our passion. And it may not be in the season we want it, but don't give up. If I could share something, I'd say get help when you need it, but also don't give up. So share a little bit about that with us.
Well, let's see here. This was probably maybe 6 months before Andrew went to Camp Hope. I had a girlfriend. She had this creative vision that she wanted to do something for women as far as concealed carry handbags, and there's not a lot of options out there as far as designs go, or even a luxury purse that has a stable carry for whether it's if you prefer to carry a handgun as a woman, or a taser or mace or anything. So I had always been in some type of work in the fashion industry, whether it was design or wardrobe styling. And she said, would you ever consider designing a concealed carry? And I was like, I have never thought in my life I would do that. I was like, well, I'll give it a try. And so I think this was also, too, around the same time that a lot of awareness around the hashtag Me Too movement and sexual assault against women and was really, really, you couldn't turn on any news without that being the first first issue that came up. And it really moved me because as a mom of a daughter, I was thinking, man, what kind of world do we live in where that's the first news story that's on and we're just being preyed upon? So that kind of, even the more research I did, I was like, I think if women had something on, whether it's self-defense, knowing jiu-jitsu or, anything like that, I'm an advocate of that. Or if you have a special self-defense product that you carry. But also during that research, not only was there not very many high fashion, high-end handbags that had a stable carry or a holster in it, it also, there's no handbag out there, the concealed carry world, that has a safety feature. So as a mom, yes, I want something that I can lock up, whether it's mace or your taser. You don't want those little hands of your children getting a hold of it. So we joined up with a company that does fingerprint locks, the biometric lock. So you have the option to lock up your weapon, your self-defense product of choice, whenever you feel like you're in a safe environment. It's up to you. So our handbag comes with that. But that's kind of a rundown of the background, how we started it. But when my husband went to Camp Hope, I was right in the middle of designing this purse, and I almost gave up. I almost thought, you know what, I've got too much going on. How am I going to start a brand, a company? Because I thought I was just in a point where I could not do it, and I almost had talked myself out of it. But that's part of the, doubting yourself and when your world has just kind of been flipped upside down. But thank goodness I have a really awesome business partner. She is tough. She is awesome. And she was like, we are doing this. She really believed in me. So it was like one of those things. I knew that she was good for me because she kept raising me up, and it's good to have those friends around during that time. So through that, we pushed through. So the purse is not only designed by women, it's engineered by women, and we found a manufacturing company, woman-owned, in America. So it's all woman empowerment, and we're going to redefine fierce and just start a new craze, of women. If it takes a nice purse to get you to carry something to protect yourself, I'm all about it.
Hey, me too. And the thing is, That honestly, when you said about the safety, so I have 3 girls, and we have a fingerprint safe in our home. Mm-hmm. You know, I personally have a 9mm, and that honestly would be one of my things was safety. And, you know, we tell these kids to listen, but I don't know, sometimes they just don't do everything we say. I mean, imagine that. And that was automatically like my first fear. So that is a big difference to me that you've addressed that. And I love that it's all women owned. That is so cool.
Yes.
And just kind of, it's
even
funny.
our investor is also.
Oh my gosh.
So everything is pro women and
yes.
So, yeah.
I love it. And April has one of her bags here, y'all, and it is with us, and it looks good. Like,
and we'll have more.
And you can't, the thing is, you wouldn't look at it and say, oh, there's a gun or a taser in there.
No.
It's funny because when I've thought, I don't have my CHL, but I need to get it. And I thought, where would I put it? You know, I mean, would I stick it in my bra, you know, or
right.
I don't know.
Well, and also the handles are made of a coil that can't be cut through.
Oh,
so a lot of times whenever someone is trying to steal your purse, they'll come up behind you with a switchblade and they'll cut through your strap or whatever because they don't want to cause they want to hurry up,
right,
commit the crime and get away.
Yeah.
But no, it's a coil that can't be cut through. And also with this concealed carry handbag, it's versatile for any self-defense product. We are not pushing, if you do not feel comfortable carrying a gun, don't.
Yeah.
You know, but carry something.
Yes.
Carry mace. Right now, I just have mace and a knife in there. So,
okay. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, and then it just depends on where I'm at. But I have my Marine husband with me today, so I didn't feel like I needed to
karate chop him and like drop kick him away.
It's your it's a woman's choice to however they want to carry, and
we want to have the choice, right? And I think that's as I meet more and more women doing great things for women. We don't want to be told what to do, but we want to have the option. And then you do what's comfortable for you. And I'm so excited to see the full line is launching spring
2020. We'll have about 5 designs complete. So we get to go to the Home Shopping Network in February for a training. So there's big plans in the works. It's one day at a time with just like anything else.
Kind of like life, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing as you're sharing all of this is coming to my mind is a lot like your business, you know, same with your relationship or your journey with Andrew and through all of this. It's like you take what you can, you do what you can in that season, but just don't give up and you keep pushing through. And a lot of times we want to rush things, and that's not what God has planned. But it always seems to come about at the right time, doesn't it? And what I've noticed in my journey as well is you open things up into the world and then the right people start coming into your life. And so I'm really excited for you, what you're doing with Camp Hope, and with your bags. And I let everyone know where they can go to find out more about you and your bags.
Let's see, our social media, you can find us at Shash Lifestyle, SHASH Lifestyle, and that's our Facebook page and our Instagram. Or if you want to shoot me an email, it's ak@shashlifestyle.com. We are doing a soft launch right now, so our first bag is available for purchase right now, but we are coming out with other designs quickly, and so we'll have those soon. But reach out to me if you're a wife struggling with your husband or a family member that has questions. I work real closely with our family coordinator over at Camp Hope. Her name's Wendy Alexander, and she's amazing. She can get the help that you need, and she'll know exactly who to contact through Camp Hope.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll put all the links to Camp Hope and April and where you can find her in the show notes. So you can go to nakedtalkwithjess.com and go to podcast and look for this episode. And you'll also see the links on there. And thank you so much, April, for joining me. I think this is going to help a lot of women. And I'm really excited to see all the work that y'all do in 2020.
I can't wait.
All right. Bye, y'all. Thank you for listening to Naked Talk with Jess podcast. You can find the show notes and other episodes at nakedtalkwithjess.com. Be sure to subscribe so you are notified when new episodes come out. And let us know what you'd love to hear on the show, because we would love to talk about it.